we don't train for a specific mission. We train for like any possible outcome. And the way we do it, we just know that you can flip like that and be, mission accomplished type thing.
Hi, everybody. It's Paul Critchley, president of New England Lean Consulting. Welcome back to another episode of the New England Lean Podcast. This week, our episode is going to be part 2 of our discussion with Brian Carney. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode, which was part 1, I strongly urge you to do that. If you can't, or just to maybe refresh your memory, Brian is a former Navy SEAL. He was in for about 13 years, saw 7 different deployments, numerous firefights with the enemy, and he was awarded the Bronze Star of Valor 3 separate times. So by any measure, I mean, I'll just say it, the guy's a badass. But the reason I wanted to rattle those things off is if you did get a chance to listen to part 1, one of the first things I was kind of teasing him about a little bit was, I said, hey, what's it like walking into a room and knowing you're the toughest guy in the room? Because, I'm not even the toughest guy in my cul-de-sac, which was number 1, a joke, and number 2, probably very true. But his response was so telling. He says, well, you know what? There's always somebody tougher, right? And that's a level of humility that I wanted to highlight, because that's a big part of leading organizational change as well. And if you're listening to this podcast, I got to believe that's one of the reasons that you listen. But when Brian said that, I reflected on it later, and I listened to the episode as it played last week. And I'm like, you know what? That's so valid. Because as a consultant, if I walk into a client and I start pointing and saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, et cetera, right? I'm not going to get anybody on board. They're not going to want to listen to me. They're not going to want to follow me. And that's true if you're a lean practitioner in industry as well, right? We have to approach people from where they are. So again, like I said, you look at all the accomplishments that Brian has made. He said in his SEAL class, they started out with 242 people. They graduated 18. And that's a pretty low percentage. So you got to think about that and think, geez. And he even mentioned it, there was a lot of ex-NFL players, Olympic athletes, college athletes, and a lot of those people didn't make it through. So there's something to be said for, again, what Brian's accomplished. And after leaving the SEALs, he started the Bonefrog Challenge, which is an obstacle course race that I mentioned that I run. And I want to tell a quick story. I introduced myself to Brian years ago at one of his races. So I knew a lot about him because I had read about him, and I have a lot of respect for people like him. People who serve in our military, I think, and the families thereof give up a lot. So I have a lot of respect for that. So I knew a lot about Brian. So here we are at a Bonefrog race at Berkshire East. There's 2,000 or 3,000 people between participants and vendors, and there's a lot going on. And I thought, I saw him and I thought, geez, he's probably busy. I don't know if I want to interrupt him, but then again, when am I ever going to get the opportunity? I see him right now, and who knows after I run where he's going to be. So I went up to him and I said, hey, Brian, my name is Paul Critchley. I'm a member of the Dirty Goats, which is the group of friends that I run with. And I just wanted to say hi and say thanks for your service and for putting this race together. And he was totally cool. He's like, hey, I think I remember that team name because I kind of liked it. I thought it was cool. And he chatted with us for 3 to 5 minutes. And again, here's the CEO of this race, this company, and he's got a million things going on. And he was totally cool. And he's like, yeah, have a great race. Come find me after, and, we can hang out and chat a little bit more. I'm really interested to hear what you think about we changed some things. So I want to hear what you think about the course and the obstacles that we've changed. And I'm walking away like, wow. And again, when I interviewed him, I was still so impressed with the level of humility. And so I wanted to highlight that before this episode starts, because again, I think that's a really big part of continuous improvement, respect for people, certainly. And there's a lot of, I think, intuitive lessons to be learned there. So I hope you like here part two. Here in this episode, we talk about change, obviously, and complacency and what it takes to start over, dealing with adversity and overwhelm, maintaining perspective, all the things that, certainly go hand in hand with Navy SEAL training and being on different Navy SEAL teams. So again, I hope you like it. And I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you soon.
So what I do for work is, organizational consulting, culture, leadership, teamwork, efficiency, like that kind of stuff. But a big part of that is, it's just that. It's, can you count on the person next to you? Is everybody there for the same purpose? Right. So I got to believe by the time, I know what it feels like to cross the finish line at Bonefrog with guys I consider my best friends. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine after 9 months, like what that must be like for the 18 people or the 17 people that you graduated with. It's got to be like, I'll give you a kidney right now if you need it. Right? Is that fair?
It absolutely is. But to go beyond buds, it's very similar in the SEAL teams. When you show up when you become a SEAL and you go to a SEAL team, you essentially do 2-year cycles for your whole career. And for 2 years at a SEAL team, it starts off kind of day one, and you're training with your platoon, your group of guys. It's about 12 guys, and you go out to SEALs. We train all over the country, different branches of the military. Like I'll just say like Army, they're bigger units for the most part, and they all do all their training like right on their base because it's too hard to move 800 guys to different trainings. But SEALs, it's very small, so we do very, very little training on our base. So we go to like a shooting school in like Mississippi, and then we're gone there for like 3 weeks. We get on a plane and we go to Nevada and do driving. We fly down to Key West to do diving, and it takes like 18 months to go through the whole training to get this platoon up ready for deployment. And then you deploy, and let's say you go to Iraq or Afghanistan, then you get to hone your, really use your skills that you've learned for the last 18 months. And then right towards the end of deployment, when you're on deployment, it's like you're the best group of guys that you're going to be. You've gone through the whole training together. These guys, on night vision, I could see one of my buddies walking about a mile away, and I can see like a shoulder of him. And I know I can say exactly who that is because I know like their gait and how they walk and their movements. Like, these guys that well, and you're so efficient, you're so deadly. It's like, we're never going to get better than this. You come back from deployment and the platoon disbands, and that's how the design is. And some guys go on to a different team. Some guys go to different platoons. Some guys go to be instructors. Some guys just get out, and you start over again. And it's that same feeling of like graduating buds with those guys. Like, wow, really tight knit. Same thing with that. And buds is only 9 months. So imagine 2 years with a platoon. Mm-hmm. And I did 7 platoons in my time, and the guys in those platoons are like your best friends ever, but then all of a sudden it recycles and you start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. But it definitely becomes taxing like that mentally, where it's like, man, I'd want to, you're my best friend. I'd rather work with, if I could just work with you for the rest of my time, and I'd stay forever type thing. And it changes out, but yeah, that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. And that, same thing. It's not unlike real world business. No. People quit, get fired, move, retire. It's all kind of part of the thing. So it's like, I can definitely see a lot of correlation between, so, because like you said, I've had, positions where it's like, I'm 25 years old. I'm thinking I'm going to retire from this place. Mm-hmm. 2 years later, it's like, it looks completely different. And whatever. It's just, so you got to so I got to believe a big part of SEAL training is being able to adapt, right?
Correct.
And because things change all the time. And I'll pick on, and I don't think you were on the team that got Osama bin Laden, right?
Mm-mm.
Or even if you were, you can't tell me, and I get it.
No.
Right. But so I read up about that. So in the training, where I think it was North Carolina or wherever they built it, they had a chain link fence that right around the compound. But when they got overseas, it was actually a concrete wall. So when the helicopters were landing, it was like it created a buffer or whatever, right? And it messed it all up. So like one of the choppers crashed. But again, it's like, I mean, not for nothing, but that's that in world history, that'll go down as one of the most significant instances ever. And it's like, if you don't have the ability to adapt, in the minute, like what is all this other stuff even for?
Yeah, no, I'd say that's one of the strongest skills of being a SEAL, is your ability to adapt incredibly fast, and it doesn't slow anything down. They have a saying in the SEAL teams that no plan ever survives its first contact with the enemy. Meaning, we have this thing planned out to we're going to go in the door, and you're going to go left, and you're going to go right, and you're going to shoot that guy, and I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, the plan changes. Someone shoots from a different corner. Like, wait, that's not what the plan is. You're supposed to shoot me from over there, or something like that. And the plan goes right out the window, and you have to adapt, like you said. And SEAL's ability to do that, the way we plan, that's why we train. We don't train for a specific mission. We train for like any possible outcome. And the way we do it, we just know that you can flip like that and be, mission accomplished type thing. And same thing, now I'm out of the military, now I'm in business. And I think that's, it's given me definitely a leg up, as far as my military, has, given me the successful tools now to be adaptive in the business type thing. I mean, hell, we're all living in this COVID world right now. And, if you could easily say, like, I had everything going good for business and I never expected this, and now I'm going to tank because of it. And it's like, you probably didn't have a really good plan. I mean, you may have thought you did, but it's at least exposing that you didn't, because everything was, crumbling if you're only focused on that. But if you can, shift and make good decision-making quickly, you can come out on the other side.
Right. Yeah. And we've had to, I know you've had to, I've had to in our business as well. We shifted to virtual, like I was mentioning to you, I've lived on Zoom for the last 5 months, because I've had to, because I could sit here and feel sorry for myself and think, what was me? I didn't ask for this. And right. And you go through that. I mean, everybody does, but
of course.
But then again, it's like, listen, New England Lean Consulting is dependent upon me, and I'm at the helm. You're running Bonefrog, so again, I'll get back to suck it up. What am I going to do about it? So I had, you can't see it, but there's a whiteboard over here, and I mapped out. I'm like, well, here's what I can do. Here's what I have control over, right? I mean, this podcast was born out of that, because I'm like, well, something I've always wanted to do. Now's the time, and let's go. The time for feeling bad about myself is over with. So let's,
yeah, exactly.
Suck it up time.
Everybody out there is going to deal with adversity in their life and hard times, and crazy things are going to come down their way. If you can't take that, then, it's going to be a rough go type thing. So, it's the old saying, roll with the punches type thing.
Yeah.
And the more experience you have and the more background you have, dealing with that kind of stuff, the better you're going to get at it. But that's all it is. I mean, luckily I have the SEAL training, because a lot of the times I can say that, like, this, hey, no one's shooting at us.
Right.
No one's dying. There's a lot of things you can deal with. All that, nothing we're doing now is to that level type thing. And it sometimes can feel that way. You can be like, oh my God, this is overwhelming, but you got to kind of just step back for a second, take a breath, and be like,
put it in perspective.
Yeah. Like we can do this.
Right. Yeah. In the grand scheme, it's like, exactly.
Yeah.
So Brian, I like taking a little bit of a break from, the formal interview part and get to a part I like to call the wicked fun part.
Yeah.
And we're New Englanders, right? So we,
Right.
like I mentioned, I grew up in Maine, so everything's wicked, right? Wicked this, wicked, right? So it's kind of like I shudder to even use the term with you, but it's like a rapid fire kind of a thing.
Yep.
So if you're up for it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. What do you think about when you're alone in your car?
I kind of just space out, to be honest. When I'm driving, it's probably the best time for me because my mind can go in 1,000 different directions type thing. If I'm sitting there doing, business or whatnot, I'm focused in that, but driving for me is relaxing because I can kind of go anywhere in my mind and think about 1,000 different things at once.
Gotcha. Fair. What were you like in high school?
I'd probably say kind of goofy,
Yeah.
fun. It's funny to say that I ended up being a SEAL because, my wife, she's a very big athlete. She went to college on a full scholarship for sports, and sports. And she's one of those people that was in a sport, year round for high school type thing. There was no time off. And I didn't really do a lot of different sports. I tried out baseball, I did football, I tried basketball, kind of did all of them for different years and stuff like that. But it wasn't just sports all the way through by any means. And then to say, well, you became a SEAL, how is that possible? And it's like, well, I guess I'd say that, I was able to, hang out with the friends and do this and be athletic and do sports and everything. But, to say that I did become a SEAL down the line is like, it almost feels like an anomaly.
What'd you want to be when you were little?
A SEAL. Every kid goes through those stages. My father was a state police officer for 35 years. And when I was very little, I wanted to be him. I wanted to be a state cop. Every night he's coming home with, dressed as a cop, gun on the hip, take home cruiser. And it just seemed like the coolest thing out there. And, what do you call them? Like parent days or career days when your parent comes in and, another parent comes in, it's like, I'm a tax collector. Just be like my dad come in uniform. Like, wow, that is so cool. So as a really young, I'd say I want to be a cop. All my friends are cops too. In growing up and everything, a lot of my friends now went into that field, so they're all cops type thing. But at some part, again, I can't tell you exactly when my goal shifted and went something different. And my father was also a Marine too, so he thought like, well, if you're not going to be a cop, maybe be a Marine, and then it really went different than that.
All right. What inspires you?
The drive to succeed. I've always been one of those people from very young that I take really big goals, or I have very big goals. Like I said, when I was young and saying I want to be a SEAL, all my friends are looking at me like, I just want to make it to 3 p.m. Like, what are you talking about? Like, well, how are you even thinking that way right now? And then, became a SEAL, and I want to do this. I want to, I was, very successful in the SEAL teams and the things I accomplished and whatnot. And again, it was like, okay, what's next? And then to get out and start a company, it's like, I want to succeed there. It's the drive to, constantly be successful, constantly keep setting high standards for myself and accomplishing them. And I think that's what drives me, is just set a goal, complete it, set another bigger goal, and keep on going. I don't think I'll ever be one of those people, or I'll never have a time in my life where I'm like, I am just super happy where I'm at. Like, don't want to go any higher. Don't want to make any more. Don't want to be more successful. I'm happy right here. Like, that's just, I don't have that.
Yeah. I think it's a good trait to have, actually. If you complacency, I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me either.
Yeah.
What's something nobody knows about you?
I have a fear of heights. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Really?
I've jumped out of planes over 120 times, but I still get rattled when I go up on a ladder. And I don't wear that badge on my arm type thing for everyone to know it type thing, but heights is just always one of those things that got to me. But you'd say if it can't be that big of a deal because you went to the SEAL teams and you jumped out of planes and all stuff like that, all the things we've done, but just because you're afraid of something doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
You're gonna definitely be more nervous doing that than other things. But I won't go into like beating my chest saying best SEAL out there by any means, but I've been in a lot of firefights with the enemy, and during those firefights, I don't think my heart rate ever rose above 80 beats per minute or something like that. It wasn't kind of like I'm just doing my job, and yes, I know bullets are flying by me and I'm trading there, but for that, very calm and collective. But when I'm in the jump plane and we're taking off and we're going up to see, I'm like, I'm gonna jump out of here. My heart's going 500 beats a minute type thing. It's just everyone has their different things.
Yep. Wow. What sound or noise do you love?
Now with my kids, kids laughing. When if you're not a parent or you don't have kids, it's hard to relate or even envision that. And even if you have kids, you probably like sound of those kids all day long drives you nuts.
Yeah.
But especially when like I'm away from them, I'm on a trip for Bonefrog or just anywhere, and all of a sudden that's gone. It's like the one sounds like I would I just want that. I want to hear that again type thing, or I really miss that sound.
Yeah. That's mine too. I've had that question, and our little one, she's 12 now, but man, when she really gets laughing, if I could bottle that,
yeah,
man, I could buy Jeff Bezos a million times over because I could sell it all day long.
Oh, absolutely.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
That's a tough one for me. Well, like I said, I was gonna go into the police field, and I've thought about that at length, and I said with my father being a state cop, I've envisioned what that would be like, what that life would look like. I'd be driving around town in a cop car and responding to calls and with other officers with me type thing, and I've envisioned it so much that it's almost like feels like a double life. Like I feel like I lived that life already, but it's only in my mind because I've only envisioned it so much. So, if I can come back again, do life over, and say like I've already done these things, so I'm not going to repeat exactly. I'd say I'd probably go, do that at least for some portion of my life, and a lot of see if it matches what I think it would be like.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a quick break from the podcast to let you know about some exciting news that I thought you'd be interested in. When we talk about lean, we talk a lot about value add. Now, that translates into adding value to your workforce, your products and services, and to your customers. We here at New England Lean are no different. We're continuously striving to deliver more value to our clients each and every day. Over the years, we've grown from being focused solely on lean training and consulting to also offering Six Sigma belt certifications, lean certification, and quality management system assistance. In fact, we just helped a Massachusetts manufacturer get ISO 9001 and ISO 1345 certified, and both of those were done with no findings. The real reason for the interruption, though, is that I wanted to let you know about the various funding opportunities that may be available to you here in New England. Regardless of which of the 6 states you're in, New England Lean Consulting is approved and/or certified to provide under those programs, from the Workforce Training Fund in Massachusetts to the Eversource-funded Prime program here in Connecticut, the Governor's Workforce Board in Rhode Island to the Maine At Work initiative. And I don't know of another consulting firm that can say that. My team and I work very hard to ensure that we stay on top of all these different programs so that we can give you the best opportunity to take advantage of incentives that you might not even have ever heard of before. So hit us up online at newenglandlean.com and look for our funding opportunities page for more information.
we kind of talked a little bit about COVID and business and how things have changed. So kind of what's up for Bonefrog now? I know, and I was bummed because I was looking forward to actually seeing you in a couple of weeks up in
Right.
Berkshire East, but we can't do that now because the health department shut it all
Right.
down. So what happens with Bonefrog now? What are you guys up to?
So we're just going to pick up our strings and keep moving forward. We're planning our 2021 season, and we're basically 2021 is going to look very similar to 2020. I would say we didn't really get a 2020. We had a great plan. It was, at least on paper, going to be our most successful year yet, because we started this company in really 2012, November 2012, and then we didn't host our first actual race until September of 2013. It takes a lot of time to form the company and the plan and the website and use so many different things. But anyways, year one, 2013, we only had one race. And then 2014, I think we had 2 or 3 races, and we've built upon that. 2020, we're supposed to have 12 races. That's the most we've ever done before in a single year. And also, every time we come back to a location, let's say a Berkshire East, it essentially grows more and more. So you're cultivating those markets. Because we didn't really get this year because it was taken away from us and we only had 2 races out of our 12, 2021 is going to look very similar to this year because we owe it to the people. We owe it to the racers that signed up or even didn't sign up, but we're planning on doing that race to do it again or to actually get a physical race. So we're just picking the right dates, that kind of thing. And we'll be unveiling our 2021 season very shortly. I'd say in the next week or 2, 2 weeks max.
Okay.
But aside from planning our next year, our virtual races have been going great. People absolutely love the virtual race we've been coming out with. We have 4 different options now, version 1, 2, 3, and then we came up with an honor challenge, which is kind of still a virtual race. It just has more things in it that are different. But going forward for the rest of 2020 at least, we're coming out with more virtual races. We're also for the virtual races, for anyone that's already done them, is we've been using all of our old vintage medals and shirts for everybody because it's cool. We have them. Going forward, we're now going to start using our 2020 and our 2019 medals and shirts. So people have those options, but we're keep on rolling out new virtual races. When we first started the virtual race, someone on my staff brought up as an idea, and I, to be honest and candid, I said, that sounds stupid. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would you want to just run from your own house type thing? But this was right when COVID hit, and I didn't have the vision that I have now to see what the world we live in and how it is. But now we started doing these virtual races, and me and my wife have done a bunch of them here at our house, and they're incredible workouts, and they're fun, and I really like them. And now I can see why would you like doing this? And I personally like doing this. I've done them now. It takes out we have a small gym down in our basement, and so many days I go down there and I just kind of just stare at the weights what am I going to do? Should I do buys? Should I do buys today? Should I do chest? Whatever. We got to come up with that plan, and sometimes you're tired and you don't really have a plan. These virtual races, it's mapped out for you. No thinking, just get right into it. And within the first minute, you're huffing and puffing and sweating. Wow, that ramped up quick. But they're over relatively quickly too. I mean, you could do our sprint in about 35 minutes, and they go up from there. So if you do the sprint once and say, now I want to try something harder, we have kind of different levels. And the virtual races mimic our distances for an actual Bonefrog. I mean, there's nothing like an actual physical Bonefrog race, but we have all the same distances. So we have the sprint, which is the 3 miles, and we have the challenge, which is now 6 miles. Tier 1 is 9 miles, and we've also we've done all of our virtual races now up to this point, but just now too, which is exciting for people, is we've started doing a Trident option for the virtual, which essentially, if you don't know what the Trident is, it's all 3 of our distances together. So you have to run the 3, the 6, and the 9 all as one. So it makes for an 18-mile soul-crushing workout.
Yeah, right. And I actually had last year a couple of members. I didn't make it, but a couple of members of our team actually got their Tridents.
Yeah.
But it was in person, which was cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, it's when we started Bonefrog. I'll just go quick on this, but when we started Bonefrog, it was like we only came out with the challenge, and it was 9 miles. But we never put a race on before, and we tried to map it out. But we'd get to 9 miles and we'd be at the top of the mountain, like, oh crap, now what do we do? Like, well, we have to get them to the finish, so we add on those miles, and that's why they ended up being longer. We've gotten better at that, let's say. But so the first Bonefrog ever only was the challenge, the 6 miles, or I'm sorry, 9 miles on paper. And then right after it, one of the racers was like, you should come out with a harder one. And we're like, harder? We just had, hundreds of people saying it was the hardest thing they've ever done. But because a couple people wanted it harder, we're like, well, don't tempt us. And we came out with a harder version. We came out with the tier 1. And then, same thing. People said like, well, Bonefrog is so hard, it unfortunately is not attainable for people that can't do 9 miles. And I get that. So that's when we came up with a sprint, to have a 3-mile 5K version of it. So it is attainable kind of by everyone. So now I kind of like to say, like, we do have an option for everyone out there. We even have a kids race and whatnot. So whether you think that you're in the best shape of your life and you can do anything, we have something for you. And if you're like, I haven't been working out, or I have just any reason, we have something for you too. So same thing with our virtual. We have many different options out there you can pick from.
Awesome. Yeah. And like I said, I've run the challenge and I haven't done tier 1. That's on the bucket list. Mm-hmm. We were going to run the sprint just in a couple of weeks, just because, I admittedly, man, I got to tell you, and I appreciate the fact that you guys have kept it in there, but that water at Berkshire East is freaking cold. Like last year or the year before, whatever it was, I was like, because it's mid-May, it's on Armed Forces Day, and it just, you don't have a choice. It's not like, it's not like waist deep. It's you're swimming. It's like, whatever. I wasn't touching bottom, so I got to believe it's 8 or 10 feet deep. It takes your breath away. I don't know what the water temperature was, but
it's toasty warm, we'd say.
Oh yeah, it's like a bath.
Oh yeah. No, but it's mountain runoff, and we do our race in May at Berkshire East, and there's still snow on the mountain. Yeah, we've had races up there in May when it's snowing out and whatnot. So yeah, that water is absolutely frigid, and we don't do much with it. Like you see a lot of different races out there where it's a water obstacle where they're going to go in the water, they're going to go under a wall or swing or something like that, and we know that this water is an obstacle in itself. Like people run the entire course and they'll go over, 30, 40, 50 obstacles. And then we spent, a week building, and then they'll be at the finish line. Like, what do you remember most? Like, that water was insane. Like, we didn't do anything with the water.
Yeah.
It was just there. It just presented itself, and it wasn't an obstacle. You just went through it. And like, that was so incredibly cold, and it just sticks with you. And it sticks with you for a lot of the race because you don't warm up, you don't dry out.
And and that's just it. I mean, the year I'm remembering, it was right at the end. Mm-hmm. So like everything after that, the rings, and there was the chopper was there, and it's all wet, because everyone's still wet because so that adds a little bit of.
We had a year that was, the elites. So we show up in the morning and the pond's frozen over. Oof. And we're like, oh. No. And we went and tested it. It was only, like a 1/10 of an inch thick. So it wasn't, you could break through it type thing. But the elite racers take off. There's maybe 25, 30 of them. And they all have kind of a tight knit pack. And they got to the water within the first, 15 minutes of the race. So they're all still pretty close. And they got to the water. I remember there's like 5 guys in the first racers. They're just standing at the edge. And they're all kind of like shuffling their feet. Like, what do we do? What do we do? And first guy just jumps. He jumps on the ice, and they made a perfect hole around his body. And they were like, now what do we do? And he started like hammer fisting through the ice, and everyone behind him just got in a perfect line and just followed him in a pit.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best pictures because it's just this whole, pond of ice and this perfect line, just a body width wide, and they're all just going down that line. If that doesn't paint a picture of what Bonefrog is.
Right. Nice. So Brian, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with me. And I hope everybody who listens like gets a lot out of this. I know I certainly did. If people want to get a hold of you or are interested in Bonefrog, like I'll link to it in the show notes, but what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I mean, our website's bonefrogchallenge.com, so around there. But our email that comes directly to us and directly to me is contact@bonefrogchallenge.com. So you send an email in there, I get it right on my computer and I see them type thing. I'm not always the one that responds to it because we have a team of people. But anyone has questions, anything, concerns, advice, write in. I'm at every single race. I've only missed one race in the last 8 years for a wedding that I was in. But I'm at every race too. So if you come to a physical race, good chance you'll see me at the finish line. I'm in the event area type stuff. We have other SEALs on our staff and they're there, but it's a tight knit group. So cool. Very, very accessible.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I mean, it was years ago and I kind of knew what you look like. And so me and my team were there and I'm like, I think that's Brian Carney right over there. I'm like, you guys want to meet him? And they're like, no, I'm like, what's the worst he's going to do to me? Choke me out? I'm like, I'm just going to go say hi. So, and you're like, it was awesome. So
yeah, I think that adds to the whole event too, I get it. There's bigger companies out there that are doing 80 races a year. And I couldn't be at every one of those too and be a father to my kids type thing. But, the size we are for a company, where we're going with our company and what we have on the horizon for building it type thing. It's that balance, it's being able to run business, keep that level of authenticity. I would never want to get the business to a point that, wow, we're doing so good in business. We have 80 races, but the quality has fallen through the roof because we just can't, you can't keep up with that kind of quality doing that many type races. It's going to be too little butter spread over too much bread type thing.
Yep.
But anyway, so finding that balance and then also having a family life. But like I said, I make it a point to be at every race for that exact reason. It's like, if I'm not there, I'm just like sitting back at home watching the races go on, I think it takes a big part out of the race experience for the racers, and maybe it doesn't, maybe even no one knows who I am, and that's fine too. But at least for some people, and I've met a lot of very close friends now along the way from Bonefrog that I didn't know before Bonefrog started. And so those people that, keep coming to the races and keep meeting them. And, this whole new group of friends I have through the races type thing. It's just because I met them at a race one time and talked to them and then saw them either next year at the next race and just kind of built on that. And I wouldn't have that either. And that continues to drive me to, like, why do you do Bonefrog? Why don't you do something else or something like that? It's like, well, not only do I love it, but I also love the people that come to it and do it. And that's a whole nother driving force to it.
Nice. Well, I can't wait, man. I can't wait till we can get back out on course again. And
can't come soon enough.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see what the future brings. I mean, for Bonefrog, and I can't wait. I mean, if you can put one up in Hawaii or like down something like that, that would be cool. So we can destination style. Yeah, no, I mean, we're trying to get out to the West Coast. There's SEAL teams. There's in Hawaii, but really the big SEAL teams are stationed in San Diego or Virginia Beach. I was in Virginia Beach for my whole time, and I'm from the East Coast originally, so it made sense that we started Bonefrog here, and we've completely blanketed the East Coast now with our races. We're taking our strides west. We've made it as far west as Texas, but our goals are, have them all across the country, get to the West Coast, and then go beyond that. So who knows, maybe Hawaii is on the horizon. Awesome. Well, I'll be the first one to sign up when it is. Good deal. All right, Brian, thanks again. I'll let you get to it. Of course. Thank you for having me on again, and hopefully see you soon. Yes, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. It's Paul. Before I let you go, I just want to say thanks for listening. I hope you found the podcast to be both entertaining and educational, as that's really what our goal is with it. If you did like it, please give us a review and a subscribe. The more folks who do this, the more the algorithms like us, so the more people will be able to find us. I also want to give special shout outs to Emma Critchley for her video and audio editing abilities, which quite frankly are way beyond mine, as well as Jeremy Grant and the team at the Timber Cross for their creative genius. I appreciate you all. I invite you to connect with us as well. We're all over social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, so we should be pretty easy to find. We share a lot of content that is much like what we talk about on the podcast, so it may be of interest to give us a follow. You can also find us online at newenglandlean.com. That's our website, and it outlines all the services we provide, things we do, customer testimonials, case studies, white papers, as well as being our main conduit for story sharing about all things that are lean, quality, and culture change focused. So check us out there as well. Finally, if you have any thoughts about the podcast, things you'd like us to discuss, things you'd like us to change, or if you want to be a guest or know somebody who would be, please email us at podcast@newenglandlean.com. We're always trying to improve and welcome any feedback. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, make it a wonderful week.